All right, so let's get started. So quick recap of what we did in the last session. We worked on the different technical language of Workday Security. Now, after that session, everybody should at least remember what Workday concepts are, including your domains, your security policies, security groups. Though we have not discussed them in detail, we did about a little bit about domain, but we'll still work on it a little more. And there was a small assignment as well as basically understanding the navigation. So let's get started with that again. What we do first is run the functional area report. So in that visual, I know you all have a screenshot of it or somewhere you have drawn it. We have two things, two pieces in every functional area. One is a domain, which are right here, and the other one is a business process. So domain takes care of your tasks, your reports, your data sources. Right. So let's say if we want to give someone access to emergency contact, I think that's an example that we use. We want to give them access to emergency contact. You can see there is a domain which says person data emergency contact. Now within that also, there are subdomains. Person data emergency contact home address. Let me start the annotation here. So you have this person data emergency contact. That's a domain. And just by looking at the way they have named it, I can very well tell that this is a subdomain to the domain that we have highlighted earlier, because it says person data emergency contact home address. So Workday has put the security so strictly that even within an emergency contact, you can restrict that if someone will have access to home address or not, or someone will have access to their work address or not. Right. Likewise, if we scroll down, let me cross this out. Let's see some other example of these. Now, let's try to differentiate between different segments within a domain. They're not technically called a segment, but I try to put a word around it so that it makes sense. Now, as you can see here, you have something for audit, then something for person data, then and I constantly have to. Then you have something for self-service, something for setup, the last one that we have. So each of these domains refer to some segment. It tells us some information, and what that information is, that this particular domain, if you give someone access to, you will have information related to audits. Let's look at that. What does that mean? In your notes, you definitely should have written securable items, which is securable actions and securable reporting items. That is exactly what a domain secures. That's why we call them securable items. And the technical language that we use, like the slang that we use here, that this is secured in this domain, this is secured in that domain. And everything what we need to see where is it secured, we go to that domain security policy. But like I said in the last session, I very well remember, learning security is a lot about reading and observing what you see on a particular screen. Like we are at the domain screen. I'm looking at the domain name which says audit contact information. Now the description says, this domain provides access to audit all workers' contact information. So when this word comes in audit, it means a lot of reports, things, some processes, some tasks which help me take an audit of this. So what I'll do is I'll click on this magnifying glass, or I can just right click on it and open in a new tab. You can see there's a count of secured items. This is the different items that, this is the number of items that this particular domain is securing, is hiding. To give someone access to this, we have to give them access to the security policy. Okay, and it's divided into different segments like custom objects, data sources. I won't say object segments, these are all different objects in one or the other way. Now you open this here. If you're already an advanced user, you can understand it from here. But still, always look into the policy. When you navigate to the policy, you can skip the errors and warnings. Again, do the same process. This domain provides access to audit all workers' contact information. The reason I'm saying, please hear me very, very clearly. The reason I'm saying to read and observe every single page you do on security, because as and when you start the understanding of security, you start grasping that particular knowledge, the next time you read this, it will mean something else. It will mean more than what you just understood. Okay, it will hit you later once you actually start working in an organization. Okay, this is what Rohan meant. Okay, now this is the deeper meaning of what that domain is securing. So read it, even if it does not make sense, like you are completely oblivious of what this is, absolutely okay, but make sure you read it every single time you go through any security page. Okay, so I have two boxes here. You can see the screen, right? The whiteboard.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so I have
sir.
two boxes here. One is domain and the other one is business process. Let's focus on domain first. I'll put this box somewhere outside the picture. So the goal is you as a new hire has joined in the company and you are joined as an HR operations analyst and you need access to employees' emergency contact, their home address, their home email. Within emergency contact, you should have access to their legal name. Let's say these are the 4 securable items that this domain is securing. Let me repeat that. This domain is securing these items. Wherever you see espresso, that means it's a Workday delivered report, which we are looking at view only. Okay, something what I mean by that is, like I go to the pay section, you see these results, pay slips, all these are different espresso reports. Espresso reports are Workday delivered, which cannot be changed. But it will make more sense when we do the reporting, but understand if it's espresso, the permissions that this will have is view only. The permission that I'm talking about are these ones. View and modify permissions that you will find on the security policies. Okay, so now the goal is, again, the business case, the goal objective here is that you need access to these because you have to do work around this. And you recently joined in and you don't have the security, or either you're not in the right security group. Okay, now the only way that you can access these is through a domain security policy or policies, because each of these might have its, not might, each of these will definitely have its own security policy. As we were looking down here, we are looking at an audit contact information from this particular page. This is the domain and this is the policy. Likewise, if you want to look into, let's say, emergency contact. Okay. So we are looking at emergency contact, which again has more domains within it. As you can see here, subdomains. So each of these subdomain will also have its individual security policy, though it will inherit the security groups from the parent domain, which is emergency contact, but you can change that. That's acceptable. You can change that behavior. Okay. Now, repeating what we just discussed, the objective is to access those securable items that you see in the domain section. How do you do it? You cannot just go in and assign yourself there. The system does not accept direct users in the domain security policy. I just said the system cannot just accept users in the domain security policy. So everything that we work happens around domain security policy. It has all the information. You need to have access to domain security policy, which will give you access to these domains. And to be able to access these domain security policy, you must be a member of a security group. So everything, all the configuration changes happen at the domain security policy level, or for a matter, business process also. Okay, now let's bring in the business process box here to complete the picture. Similar to this, we will have a business process security policy. Business process are all modify actions because you initiate an action, like you want to change an emergency contact. There is a business process which is secured in that same functional area by a business process security policy. Because if you notice here, if I go back to my functional area report, you do have these domains in this, plus you have these business processes. So going back to our visual that we did on Friday, you have domains plus business process. Domains give you access to tasks, reports, view access. This is completely action oriented. You want to change emergency contact, you get the access to business process security policy. Either way, where do you fall in? Let's say you are here, you are the user. This is where you get connected. You have to be a member of a security group, which is then added into these security policies, your gatekeepers for these domains and business process respectively. This is everything about security you need to understand, except for security groups, which comes with its own thing. But understanding how you get access, now put yourself in a situation where you are working in an office. Okay, either you are a member of an HR group or not, either you are a member of the core Workday team or not, whatever role you are currently in, you can, if in the system you are able to see someone else's information, that is not just a default. It is being defined in the backend, which means the very first thought that should come to your mind is you are a member of some security group, which is added to some domain policy or business process or both, which is giving you access to what you can see and do in the system. The very first thing that you have in your notes written down, either on day one or when we started the security topic, is security tells you what you can see and do in the system. That is the literal meaning of security. What you can see and what you can do. That is what security is. Okay. All right then. Now moving back to the how it actually looks in the system. That's why we start with functional areas report, because it gives us a holistic view of the domains and business process. Not every functional area will have domains and business process. Some will only have domains, some will only have business process, but those are very rare exceptions. Most of the functional areas, like the very much used functional areas, the big functional areas like staffing, compensation, benefits, each have domains and business process. So right now we are focusing on domains. We started with an example of, let's close this, audit domain. Okay, again, we read through it. We try to get a familiarizing ourselves. That's what I always say. Make yourself familiar of what you're doing. And gradually you will get an understanding. Okay, this is what this is. That's the benefit of going through each and every page and reading the descriptions. And then we go here. At the policy level, this is where the configuration changes happen. And the only configuration change that you can do, whether it's domain or business process, is add or remove security groups from here. Okay, which means now, even before you do that, you need to understand what security you are giving to someone. By someone, I mean to that particular security group. That is all in these two sections. This is what that particular domain is securing. Once you add a security group here, give them the permission, these 10 plus 15, 26 securable items, which are also mentioned here, will now be open to access for these groups. Now let's see what these are. Securable actions. Actions means they might be access to some tasks. Tasks are nothing but one-step actions. These are not business process. Now here you can see here, contact information security audit report. Report Expresso view. Wherever you see report Expresso, you'll get view option. Now this means if I give someone access to this domain, through this domain security policy, they can run this report. Now let me copy paste and try to run it here. There you go. Now Logan has the security, that's why they're able to do it. This is what that means. It will give you access. Let's take another example. Directory by country. Report writer. Now report writer is a security group. It's a user-based security group. And this also means giving access to a report. This also means giving access to a report. I'll explain the difference later once we start with reports. Okay, just understand wherever you have report, it will be view access only. Wherever you see view get, it's nothing but the integration view access. In normal tasks and reports, we call it view and modify. You would see here view here and modify here. That's for normal tasks and reports. But if you scroll down somewhere, you have securable actions for integrations as well, where this is view get and view put. Get means it's something to view. Put means these are Java terminologies. I don't want you to get into there, but just letting you know, if you see something here which says view get, that also means view only. So this means I can also run this report. Directory by country. Let's go ahead. There you go. There's a report I can run. The reason I'm able to run it is because Logan McNeil is a member of a security group which has access to this policy. Likewise, there are other types. Workset is still unclear what this is. There's no information on community, so we really don't look into it. Now, safely, I can give access to this domain, but it is not giving, oh, we can give access because what we need is this. We need a way to audit the contact information. So we can use this, and I'll give someone access to this. But that's not it. That's not the only criteria. You also have to give a quick look at the reporting items. Reporting item means if I have access to some reports, you will mostly see view get options here. View get options again means view. There's something called as data source, which we'll talk about when we start with reports. Okay. Now, view option of these means, let's say you have access to a report. Okay, and in that report, there is a column which says worker incorrectly hired twice. Okay, and that is constantly coming out blank for you. You do have access to the report to run, which has 10 other columns, but this column is constantly coming out blank. So you're now suspicious, why is that happening? You went to your security administrator and checked with them. They checked your security and realized you don't have the security for it. When someone says you don't have the security for it, this simply means you are not in the right security group, one, or your security group is not given to the right policy. You are running a report, you don't able to see it. There's only two reasons for it, which is either you are not a member of the security group or your security group is not a member of this policy. So either way, when you find it, you either add the security group here or you add the member in the security group. Now, when you change a security group policy, let's say, let's pick a, I don't want to make any changes here. I'll quickly create a security group because I'm very cautious about removing someone else's security group. We'll also do this together, so don't worry about it. Okay, let's say if I take an example of people administrator. So you're saying if I remove the security group from here, it will only remove access from this policy, which is audit contact information. No other policy it will make an impact on. But let's say audit contact information has subdomains, and those subdomains are inheriting the same permissions, then that will also be removed. But if this particular is an individual domain which has its own policy, if I just remove it from here, it will still be everywhere else where it has been already there. So I think the security restrictions are a lot on this tenant, which I think I experienced it earlier as well. We cannot create a security group, but let's say I want to remove OMK HR manager. For example, I'll open this group. I want to remove this from the security policy. How do I do it? It's very simple. You go to the related actions, domain security policy. Oh, the edit permissions are also restricted. That is not done. Yeah, I'll have to check in another tenant if that works. So we usually get an option here which says edit domain security policies. Let me, quickly run one thing to see if that might work. I only have access to this tenant for about 5-10 minutes. So let's quickly go through it. Now, let's say if you are completely new to this, you want to navigate to the domain, the basic way. You run the functional area report. You go through different domains. You open up one domain, you go to the policy, right? There's a shorter way to do it once you become familiar with these functional areas, and it gives you a much better view. And that is, if you directly have to navigate to the security policy view of it, there is a report which says domain security policy for functional areas. Okay, you just run this and enter the functional area. In this case, our functional area was contact information. Okay, this will give you complete access, complete visibility, as you can see here, in a much better way. That these are all the domains, and wherever you see this folder icon, that means it has subdomains. If I click on it, you will see there are subdomains here, and the folder opens up. If I close this, it's right here. Now we were at that audit contact information. Now here you can see this is the policy, it's active, so on and so forth, and the same information that we were looking at earlier. And these are the security groups. Now, if I have to change it, I'll go to the related actions. You will see an option which says edit permissions. Now, doing this allows us to remove the security groups here that you see. So let's say I don't want to remove anything here. I remove this. This means anyone who was a member of that group will no longer be able to access what? These 26 items. But clicking OK does not make it effective because changes to security policies are two-part step. It comes in two parts. One is you do your configuration here and you see a note here, your changes have not been saved but are not yet in effect. This means there is one another step which you have to do to make sure that the changes have been done. And that is you run a task called as activate pending security policy changes. This is the task, activate pending security policy changes. When you run this, make sure you add in very, very clear comment. Let's say you always add in your initial run override, removed XYZ group from which domain? Audit contact information. it's always important. Now, Workday does not have any, two choices, any 2 cents about it, whatever you put here. It's a free text comment section. But you should always be very, very informative in your work as a Workday consultant, representing yourself to the highest level of quality by adding the comment, which if anyone reads it, it makes sense. Now, just as an example, you can see here the previous comment which someone worked on this is said approve. It does not mean anything to me. But when I say I have my initial here, I says I removed this group from this domain. And if you have done it because of, let's say, there was a Jira ticket or a ServiceNow ticket that you received, you can add that ticket number here as well. So that anyone who wants to go back and see, okay, what changed in the meantime, they can refer to that ticket number, or this information will give them understanding of what this is. Wherever there is a comment, make sure be a good consultant and add in the comment which others can understand. But since this is a test environment, so I'll just put in test, and that is what I'll recommend you as well. Okay, we don't want any red flags of removing or adding anything, so let's just keep it test. And then you are asked for a confirmation that you made changes to this policy. It is not very informative. It just tell you that you made some change to this policy. It does not tell me you removed a security group or added, but it just says all pending security policy changes will be effective. Please review the data below and click confirm. I click confirm and click OK. That is when that security policy will actually be updated. So let me go back to that security policy again. There is one more way that you can navigate to if you want to navigate to an individual domain. I can show you that as well. Just make sure you don't get confused. So this is one way where you navigate the security policy directly through the functional area, right? If you know the domain, and this is when you become advanced in security, you just type in domain, and you don't have to remember the domain name, but you have some recollection it was related to audit. Just type in audit. Whatever keywords you know of, start typing those, and you will find your domain. When you find your domain, you go to the security policy and see the permissions, but don't edit it. Okay. Now you will see that the group was in the end, it's no longer here. Likewise, if you have to add a group, again, edit the policy and add the group. That is the only configuration piece in security, apart from the security groups, which we'll do separately. Now, this is not available in our tenant, but this is a loaner tenant that I'm using. So unfortunately, let's see here, removed, view and modify from audit. Okay, so this is the configuration that you do, but I'll still recommend knowing the security, playing around with it. Don't make any policy changes as of now, because obviously, first of all, it's not allowed in the tenant that we have access to. And even if we have, I don't recommend my candidates to make any changes until we create our own security groups. Because since day one, we don't want to manipulate any data in the system. We'll create our own data for everything that we do. Okay, so that was about domains. Now let me, proxy out. Sorry, basically close this and go back to our original tenant, right? Or is my maths? I know I'm not good at maths, but 10 plus 15 is 26, right?
25, sir. I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand this.
No, you're actually right about it. Yeah, my maths is really bad in this. So not always the count is an actual representation of what the different securable actions and items are. So it just gives you a ballpark number, okay, somewhere around this. majority of the time you will not find them equalizing to the exact number that you see on the domain versus what you see on the security policy. So you should not be concerned of that, whether it's matching or not. It's more of you're able to find out which area of the system you want to give them access to. Now, the way we understood the domain security policy, the same way we have business process security policy, it's just that it looks slightly different. So how do we navigate to a business process? Let's say we want to, let's first, just open our functional area again here. Now here you can see we have these processes. Now let's say I want to give someone access to change the emergency contact. Okay, so we'll navigate to that particular business process. The way we navigate is BP column and the name of the process. In this particular tenant, in these test environments, you will see tons of different definitions. That's why we first run a report, which is business process default definition in use. Business process types with default definition in use. This is the report that we use, which will give us the default definitions. We'll understand what default definition is once we finish security and come to our business process topic. It's basically default means Workday delivered, but technically it's not Workday delivered. We can change it. So our focus here is not understanding business process. Our focus here is understanding the security behind it. Okay, so please keep your focus on the security part of it. Now, as when we did domains, we had these things, view and modify permissions, because it was securing securable actions and securable reporting items, which covers your tasks, your expressor reports, your regular reports, your data sources, custom objects. A business process is a complete action. There's always an initiation step. This process does not have much steps, but who can initiate it, right? If someone has initiated an emergency contact, they should have the access to this business process. And if someone has initiated it and it has been initiated incorrectly, you want to give them access to cancel or rescind or correct. Okay, and then there is emergency contact, which is being populated through your domain, through your onboarding business process. Like when you are newly hired, you have to enter that information, right? And if someone is entering it ad hoc, like they have recently changed their emergency contact, do you want any approvals? So all that is tied to your security in the backend, right? And how do we look into the security is we go to the related actions, business process policy. There's always an edit button also, but that's not applicable here. We go into the view section. Business process security policies are divided in 3 categories. One is who can start the business process. This one will always who can do actions on the entire business process. The third one is not here because this business process does not have any other step other than initiation. So let me pick a better example. Let's say I pick up, I don't know if termination also has it. So I'm just going to hit and trial on a few of these and see if this one would definitely have. Let's say we are looking at, we are looking at termination business process. So every business process will have these 3 categories. Who can start the business process, which will again have these smaller sections. The second one would be who can do action steps in the business process. And the third one is who can do actions on the entire business process. Let me open a screenshot, which I already have designed, which will give you an understanding of like a quick visual of all these 3 in one screen so that you don't have to put it down separately. You can see this visual, right? So the very first section is, and please, understand that not every business process will have all these three. Every business process will definitely have this and the last one. The second one depends on if there are any action steps within the process. Action step means calling out another business process or doing some action. Okay, so let's talk about the first one, which is who can start your business process. Now I've highlighted, like I've underlined the keyword which helps you understand what this is. It says who can start, right? Starting means initiation. This means that, okay, I have to this from here. This means which security groups can actually initiate this process. And this is a list of security groups, and there are 75 others, which is not a correct way for it. You'll only have a few in every business process, but this is a test environment, so let's leave it at that. And the termination initiation can be in different shapes and forms, like a standard initiation, which just says initiating action. Another kind of initiating action is terminate employee web service. This is an EIB when we do bulk loads. That is when you give. So if you're able to initiate a termination, but you're not able to do a mass termination process, that means your security group is not listed down here. If someone initiated a resignation and that did not trigger a termination process, that means the security group is not right. If someone was on a probation period and that ended without that getting extended or removed, that automatically kicks in a termination, which means another type of initiation. So likewise, you will find different types here. And depending upon what kind of initiation you need, you enter the security group in the right place. It can be one or it can be all. So that is what your initiation is. Who can start the business process? Basically, your initiation of the process. Now that initiation can come in different shapes and form, which is not very clearly written, but once you get a hang of it, you'll understand. This is every business process will have this category of initiation because someone can initiate it. And these are the security groups who will have access to this. And again, if you want to change this, you edit the policy and remove or add the security group. Right? This one, terminate employee web service, which means mass uploads, mass termination, which happens through EIBs, which is one of the last topic in the course. So if you're having access to terminate someone, but you get a request to terminate in bulk, so you need to follow an EIB, which is basically your mass upload process, but you're not able to do it because your security group is not added here. Web services are nothing but your business process being activated as APIs in the backend to help you mass upload or mass change, basically bulk changes. Likewise, you can see from resignation, termination is initiated. That's another way of initiation. From probation period, termination is initiated. So multiple initiation, and this will differ to different processes. Let's say if I talk about change job, let's look at change job policy. You might see different types of initiation. So each process comes with its own initiations, and no two processes are same. Like no two domains are same, likewise here. You can see here who can start the business process. So standard change job. Description also says that change job menu related action. This is basically you go to the worker profile and there's a job change option from which you can initiate. And these are the security groups who can do that. Okay. Then again, if you want to change contingent worker details, it's also giving you from where you can do it. You need to have a security group. Change location internally also calls a change job. Again, change of web service means you have to do it in a bulk. So you will see a lot of different types of initiation. That is what this first section is, who can initiate it. Now the next is who can do actions who can do actions on entire business process. Just by reading at it, I can very well understand on the entire process means if there is a transaction, can I cancel it? Can I correct it? Can I send it back? Can I approve it? Can I rescind it? So when we talk about business process, there are three primary terms. I would like you to make note of it. One is correct, one is cancel, and the other one is rescind. And rescind is something like this one. There you go. Rescind. Okay, so every business process, when we talk about this category, who can do actions on entire business process, you have these, which is correct, cancel, and rescind. Now let's talk about cancel and rescind first. You have a new hire in the company, or let's say you initiated a change of location for someone, basically a transfer, and that process has not yet completed. Okay, it still is pending some approvals. There's some steps which you still have to do. So the only option, and let's say that was initiated incorrectly, the information there is incorrect. So the only option that you see for that transaction will be cancel. That will reverse everything that you have done. Now, taking that same example of transfer, the process was completed and then it was realized, okay, it's wrong, it's incorrect. You won't see the cancel button now, you will see the rescind button. So both of them are doing the same thing. It's just at what stage you are in. If the transaction is in progress, you can write down next to cancel, in progress events are cancelable. And you write down for rescind, successfully completed events. Those are rescindable. So, for example, let's try to navigate to someone's, you open another tab, because else I'll open Logan's profile only. I'll go to the worker history. Okay. So you see here, let's say contact change information or request reference letter. It is successfully completed. If I have to say that this was incorrectly entered, I want to reverse it, go to the related actions, business process, you will get an option of rescind. Versus if I filter out any process which is in progress, let's find out some in progress event. Let's say this benefit change, you can see it's in progress. Don't worry about on hold. And that's on the benefit side. If you want to reverse it, you click on the related actions, go to business process, you will see the cancel. You won't see the rescind button. That's the difference between cancel and rescind, which we'll also discuss in business process, but something you should know. Correct is always there. Not, I won't say 100%. Depending upon the security, some processes are not correctable. There's another, like we saw something there, right? Let's remove the sorting here. And also the filter. We noticed something that had successfully completed, we had the option to correct it also. Like this one, correct. So correct, basically, you will find it on most business process. It does not have any relevance whether the process was completed or is in progress. You will have it, right? So let's say if this is one-time payment, you also have correct here, which is in progress. And you also had a correct and successfully completed. So correct button does not have any restriction, but the limitation with it is you can only correct the dates, like the effective date, or maybe some slight information. You cannot change like, the payment amount here or who the payment is going to. So correct is for small changes, like someone is being hired and they want to join in a little late. You can change the hire date. That's all, but you cannot change their manager. So who can do actions? So these actions are basically you're doing on the complete transaction. Right? So this is what it means. Who can do actions on the entire business process? And this is what it means. So if I scroll to that particular category, which is who can do actions on the entire business process. You have some category you can approve, ad hoc approve, primarily or cancel. Again, you want to cancel in bulk, you have that option. You want to rescind it, rescind in bulk. You want to correct it. And there's also a reassignment, that whether you can reassign that task to someone else. So each business process comes with its manually advanced means. Usually it comes in time off processes where you can manually advance it to approval. So each business process, deny also, like manager is not approving it, you will have a deny button. So each business process, as I was saying, comes with its own set of action items.